Holy shit, I'm alive. All good. Damn.
Every pilot, no matter how seasoned they are, carries a quiet little fear in the back of their mind: engine failures. It's just one of those things that you know can happen even if it's rare. We train for it, run through simulations, and talk about procedures. But the thought of hearing that engine go silent mid-flight is something that you can never really shake off. Now, I'm no exception here. Most aviators will go their entire careers without facing that reality. Unfortunately, I'm not so lucky. I've been there once before. I remember the silence. I remember the shock of it all. Someday, I'll tell that story here, but today is not that day.
Visibility 10. Sky clear. Temperature 27, dew point 07. Altimeter 3003. DOR Alpha approaching use. Arriving and departing runway 24. Advise on initial contact. You have information. Bravo.
Cool. Forward to ground 7819 for Alpha transient. Like to go runway 24. For left Alpha departure towards Catalina. We have information for Bravo.
Today I'm introducing you to a friend who knows exactly what that feeling is like. Meet Chris, a guy who started out in the restaurant world and ended up flying jets for a living. We first crossed paths when Aurora was getting her private pilot certificate. Chris had a Saratoga, we had a Bonanza, and we were all just flying for the love of it. Over the years, that mutual passion turned us into good friends. Not long ago, Chris made a big change, leaving the restaurant scene to become a full-time contract pilot. He's living the dream, flying around doing what he loves every single day.
She said, please send pictures of home, 'cause I was born for life on the road. There ain't no part of me that's alone, and every right thing just feels so wrong.
Do you have a preference on altitude?
No.
Do you care if I go low?
Turn right there at Alpha Bravo.
I didn't know. You didn't know if you wanted to go high or not. You gotta have water experience. You gotta have some water experience.
Like whatever.
Last year, when he had a layover in Anchorage, I took him up in the Hawkwagon. I had a blast showing a corporate pilot the ropes of short, rough gravel bars and off the beaten path strips. It was that day that I think I planted the stole bug in Chris.
What would you do if you had an in and out, you're in the backcountry, and you've got a bunch of forest, you've got a river, but you can't make the river.
Can't make the river, so I'm in trees.
You're going to be in the trees. Yeah, you're going to be in the tree canopy.
Find the softest.
Well, let's just say the river is not landable because it's just water.
Okay. Dude, I don't even know. How deep's the river? Like, I got questions, you know?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like,
I got a bunch of guys that would tell me, they would say, hey, they would kind of use the river, gain some speed, you know, just enough speed where they had enough energy to come up into the nice spongy trees, you know, so you lose enough energy and you just plop it down with the trees. Kind of like when we were talking about how, like, where would you put this thing down? Like if you lost your engines over the glacier, you know, you straddle it, you know, just boom, straddle.
Slow, rip the wings off.
Yeah, rip the wings off.
Because then the gas is no longer a factor.
Well, that too. You've also lost the energy, you know, and you've dissipated the energy, absorbed it, and the gas is no longer there.
Yeah.
A few months later, he sent me a video with practically no explanation. It was a simple text: "You'll never believe what happened to my Saratoga. I'm in the market for a tail dragger now." And then about 45 seconds later, a short clip showed up.
Holy shit, I'm alive. All good. Damn.
Dude, walk me through, like, I just did a video from you, right? Like, no, by the way, there's no explanation. Yeah, so like,
it started the fact that I did have an oil pressure loss and I had to circle down, and so...
Like how low?
I mean, it just dropped.
Oh, like zero?
Yeah, zero. So I just pulled the engine all down, shut it off, and glided into Santa Monica.
Okay.
I happened to be right on top of the field. I just asked for priority landing. So I put it down. got off the runway and then shut it down. That was it, right? Santa Monica, they don't have any mechanics on the field. There is one. But, you know, he was like, I can get to it in 3 months.
Holy crap.
Yeah. We had to get a CUP just to have a mechanic come to do business in Santa Monica. That's how kind of like backwards it is. Yes, you couldn't have, so like, we'll give your mechanic a special CUP just to come up here
contact low,
to look at the plane.
I can't believe that. That was, okay. So
that's anyhow. So like, we went up there, scoped it, checked it out, everything really, you know, looked good. So, you know, compression tested it. Took off the filter, you know, checked it out, no metal, nothing. Okay, cool. So then I got in it, and I said, you know what, I'm going to take it over to Long Beach where we live, and where there's a lot more services, and we'll go get it, you know, more thoroughly checked out.
Yeah.
And so then I just, so that was the plan. And the plan was like, hey, you know, out of an abundance of caution, I'll just take the coastline instead of going straight after flight rules and then going straight to Long Beach.
God, that was a good decision.
So yeah, so then I just, you know, departed and corkscrewed up to 35 and went through the flight rules, and then I was kind of coming around where Palos Verdes is, just off of Torrance, and then all was well, you know, just kind of cruising, and then just, you could just start to hear that.
Oh, really?
You know, I was like, oh boy, so then, you know, I kind of pulled it up. But it only took a matter of, you know, 20 seconds for it to just go. Boom.
Oh, it like.
Oh, it
went
boom?
boom?
No, it went boom. Hooey. Yeah, boom. It went boom. The whole thing blew out the side, oil on the windshield.
Really?
Yeah. It was done.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it was catastrophic. It wasn't like, no, it was catastrophic. Wow. Blew out the side, oil came on the windshield. I'm like, all right.
Yeah, you're done at that point.
Done. You know, just pitch, feather, and immediate pitch, immediate feather, and then just call for a mayday.
So, like, walk me through the process on why the water? Because, so I know the area. You had Trump National, right?
Yeah.
You had a couple of roads. But I look at it, you were in a Saratoga, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so your faster airplane, you've got retractable. Retractable gear.
Yeah.
So you got retractable gear on it. You basically, you really couldn't handle too much terrain at that point. Like this, I could land anywhere.
Yeah. Well, you have a slower stall speed, you have a slower approach speed,
right?
Everything speed. Yeah, of course.
But what made you think water?
Well, I mean, statistically, water ditching an airplane is your best place to go.
I agree with that.
It's like, okay, so I could have chosen to say, all right, I'm going to go ahead and try to make the airport, but I got one shot at it.
Yeah.
That's it. You know, there's no go-arounds, there's no do-overs. You know, now you're contending with, you know, power lines and cars and buildings and other people and all that stuff.
100%.
You know, if you don't get it right, you're done. Dunzo. So I wasn't willing to mess with that. So, you know, I kept on going around the corner, knowing that you had Palos Verdes golf course was right there.
Yeah.
I was at 3,500 feet. So I had enough time to kind of make a decision. By the time I pitched, I was at 4,000 feet. And Palos Verdes golf course, it's not a very, it's a very small course. I've played it many times. I'm like, from my vantage point, I'm like, there's not much there. It was on a Sunday. There's people on it. I didn't feel like killing somebody.
That makes sense.
That just ruled that out immediately. So I kept on coming around. And I was like, well, maybe I could make it all the way like to kind of Cabrillo. And I went as far as like right in front of Trump National, and I just didn't have enough altitude, you know. Yeah. So the best option was to just put it in the water.
Yeah.
There's nothing to hit, you know.
Right.
And I'm pretty confident when it comes to swimming.
Yeah.
So I put it right on past the kelp line.
Yeah.
And gear up. Yeah. I just got it, you know. I just flew it all the way until I couldn't fly anymore. I kept my flaps up as long as possible, just to stretch the thing out as far as I could go.
Yeah.
Into the last minute, you know, and did the same what we had just talked about. I basically, you know, I got a little bit of ground fact last minute. Pulled it up, stalled it with the tail into the water, and then come down. So I probably hit it, I don't know, 50 miles. The last I looked at my speed, I was like 61 knots.
Wow.
But that was right before I hit. So I imagine I probably slowed down to about 50 miles per hour, plus or minus.
Yeah.
You know, and it just kind of like hit pretty hard. It was fairly violent, and then you know, the whole thing went underwater, and then it popped back up, and
it floated.
Yeah.
How long did it float for? I gotta ask.
I would say, I don't know, maybe 3 minutes.
Oh, wow.
But that's also because I left the door open. If I would have closed the door, the water wouldn't, you know, I wasn't really thinking, like, it was kind of like, holy crap, I'm on the wing. I should have closed the door and water wouldn't have got inside it. It probably would have stayed floating for longer.
Sure.
But it didn't, you know, the weight of the engine finally got to it and it just nosed down. And once it nosed over and I couldn't stand on the wing anymore, then it was time to go swimming.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
incredible. Hey, you sent me that video and I was like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Just like that, the fate of his Saratoga was set in stone. Since then, we've been chatting a lot, and wouldn't you know it, he ended up buying the exact same year, make, and model 170B as my Hawkwagon.
Keep it simple, keep it sweet. Here's a line I heard somewhere. Feel the ground under your feet. It can take you anywhere.
So here we are in Southern California, and I'm taking Chris out to an iconic Southern California landmark, Catalina Island, the airport in the sky. If you're not familiar, Catalina's runway sits about 1,600 feet above the ocean, carved into a mountaintop back in the 1940s by the Wrigley family.
All that could have been talking would have been walks. Ain't never done much for help. Get on your feet and run.
Catalina has quite a reputation. Pilots call it a badge of honor to land here because of the tricky optical illusions, steep drop-offs, and shifting winds that keep you on your toes. Catalina Island Conservancy runs the place now, preserving not just the airfield's history, but the island's wildlife, including the wild bison that roam around out on the island.
And if we get to where we're going now.
Now, before you light me up in the comments, I am fully aware of the irony here. I'm taking a friend who survived ditching his airplane into the Pacific Ocean, right back out over that same ocean a few months later. But sometimes you gotta face down those fears, and as a friend, I'm happy to be the guy to help rip off that Band-Aid.
Get on your feet and run.
After I absolutely greased our landing, we wandered around and stretched our legs, making sure to give Walter, Chris's dog, a chance to explore. It's hard not to fall in love with this place. Big views, quiet trails, and the smell of salt in the air. I have a lot of history here in Catalina. It was one of the first places that I flew right after getting my pilot certificate. And then, right after I got my instrument rating, I actually did my first ever pretty much 0-0 takeoff right here out of Catalina Island. I've stayed on the island more times than I can count, and have mountain biked almost every trail here. I've been fishing, diving, and lobstering right off the coast. The amount of activities available here on the island are absolutely impressive.
Well, this was a fitting place to come today. This is pretty much the last main adventure that I've got down here in Southern California. Tomorrow, I'm gonna board the plane and start flying northbound toward Walla Walla to get the plane dropped off. This is one of the first places I came back when I first got my pilot's license, and it's fun now because it's one of the last places that I get to go while I'm down here visiting friends and family. So a really cool place to be, and yeah, we're gonna go get in the plane now, head back to Long Beach, and see if we can get a little sunset flight around Catalina. Let's go ahead in the wagon and find out.
Chris told me about his journey, leaving a successful restaurant career for contract flying. We talked about what pushed him to make that call, the challenges he faced, and the reasons that he stuck with it. Funny thing is, Chris was standing in my shoes about 5 years ago. I'm at a crossroads in my own life right now, trying to figure out my next move in aviation and business. Hearing how he took the plunge was inspiring. It reminded me of what I always say. You're never too old, and it's never too late.
But I think I reached the
clean traffic to St. 19 Bravo, taking the active on 22 straight out.
We headed back to the plane chatting about what the future might hold. As we were walking and talking, a thought came through my head about Chris's accident. His calm thinking when things went south saved not only his life, but people on the ground too. And that's no small thing. His story is the kind of real-life lesson that I think is worth sharing here on the channel. Over the course of the series, we've touched on some pretty heavy topics: density, altitude, weather decisions, and engine-out procedures. Now, I'm not trying to turn this into an educational channel or a ground school style session, but when a story like Chris's comes up, I can't just gloss over it. We learn from these experiences, passing that knowledge along so that we can all stay safer and enjoy flying longer. That's what I love about this community. This was my last flight in Southern California for the time being. Tomorrow I'm heading north to start the next chapter of this journey. I'm leaving here grateful for good friends, new lessons, and the reminder that our paths in aviation and in life are never set in stone. Stay tuned. Our adventure continues in the next episode.